Hey family, how's it going? Quick video because I feel it's important and it's a way for me to resonate with something that myself and others know about me is I love to move. My expression of movement. I enjoy the expression of movement, and I think more than ever in the last 4 or 5 years, 6 years maybe, when I kind of had my knowledge and what I thought was right and wrong kind of split in two, and that kind of actually started a little earlier than I presumed before, or I assumed, or I thought, or whatever word. And it started when someone said, "Eric, there's no rules. There's just guidelines." And then deeper into that comes the next part. But he said there's just guidelines, and he meant that in movement, and I'm very grateful for this person that mentioned that to me. And he was doing things very unconventionally, and I didn't quite understand it at the time, but it was enough of a breakthrough for me to start to see exercise a little differently, to be less critical about what is right and what is wrong. And I'm really grateful for that moment in my life with my training career, for helping other students, and for opening up the gateway for myself and to explore movement more holistically, and that got me to start doing things, different modalities, different tools, different methods, different principles, different teachings, and really just kind of understanding that, hey, like, there is no right or wrong, so to speak. And um and I, because I want to present I'm sticking this in the middle of what I was just speaking about there a little bit, but essentially movement is a freedom of expression to me, and there's no right or wrong way in that expression. And sometimes it can look weird to the outside eye when you're going to do something, or you do something that doesn't look quite quote unquote right, but actually it's a maybe perhaps a cathartic release of some sort, or there is an artistic, kind of with the paint stick or something, and it kind of throws you off. It throws the outsider's perspective of what is conventional off. It throws it off, and that is the uniqueness of you. That is your expression. That is my expression. And if I can just wave, it's not if I can, in a way, if I can, and I let myself speak so uniquely regardless of what others think, that essentially, I know it sounds almost too, I don't think the word's cliche, but everyone's talking about it. And it's funny because it's the simple things, and that to me is profound. And I know that I'm impacted by what people think, and I'm persuaded by what people think. Even if it's being authentic, I might start to take what I did authentically, get praise for it, and then start to try to do more of that for my own expression of art. And I think it's different when you're trying to help somebody, but when people just love your expression, then it's very important for me and others that may be going through this to not be pulled by their opinion of how you expressed yourself, because that can totally take away from your personal endeavors. And maybe that's why sometimes sharing those things can be challenging for a lot of people. I would even think myself. But I know there's a mentally a map, a way around it, and I know that it can benefit us all. And then lastly, one of my other friends. If he watches this, he'll know who he is. It's a him, and he said, Eric, or he said this in a ceremony. He said, Eric, there's no guidelines, there's no rules, there's just consequences. And I love that. So it went from rules to guidelines, and then it went from rules to consequences. And I love consequences because the consequences, of course, we can have guidelines for, like, okay, if you do this, there's a strong chance that this might happen. We can make probabilities, we can make hypotheses, and we can look back on history and see, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going to happen. It just shows that. So consequences I love. So there's going to be a consequence to my actions. There's going to be a consequence. What those consequences are, that is unknown. That is somewhat unpredictable. And I like that. I think it's beautiful, and it's maybe in some way not the next step, but it's a relative piece of information or understanding to look at, okay, if I do this cause, the effect is going to be something. There's a consequence to that. And I know there's some more subtle than others. There's some more vast than others, more pieces of the puzzle, pieces of the pie that hold a greater percentage of that. But it doesn't mean we can't tap into other things. Blah, blah, blah. I think that's another aspect. But anyways, I hope I got across something here is your own unique expression. Don't be troubled by it. It's kind of thinking like society's standards. I was reading in a book today that he says you don't even know your false beliefs. They're so programmed you wouldn't even question them. And you would just assume that they're you and that there's a problem, rather than, in the problem being outside, where it's just you haven't yet been able to authentically say, this is my experience, and I am in no way, shape, or form saying that is easy to do. That is a hard, or in my experience, it's been hard to break free of the chains of identity with beliefs that are even unconscious to me, but even those that come up consciously, and I see I am still scared and fearful of. But I suppose when it comes to self-inquiry, self-transformation, working on this being and how you're interacting inside and outside, it's vast, and it's beautiful, and it's crazy. But anyways, hopefully you enjoyed that. Thank you. Thanks for letting me share.